Hello and welcome to Transcendental Waves. I'm Jeff Bailey.
And I'm Michael Burrows. Today, we're going to talk about where does the money go when we're giving money to the church. You know, what does the church need its money for? Churches do so much things with their money, uh, and they get it just by everybody giving them 10% of whatever they make, to the church before taxes. Jeff, what have you seen the church use money for, and do you think it's going to good causes, or do you think there could be better uses for that money? And do you think maybe there's other better organizations to give our money, our extra money to too?
Um, you know, that's a tricky one because that's one of the things that kind of jaded me with church is it felt like church was just like another like a business and I don't mean that in a like because they don't really sell anything. I mean in particular, they pretend to sell like salvation, but it became like a I went to several different churches because we moved a lot when I was growing up, and it was just like you just see the subtle little differences in every church, and you kind of realize that like every church is like kind of molding the Bible to fit, to make sure those seats are full. They'll spread whatever message they need to make sure those seats are full, and especially the like once you get to like the bigger churches. I went to like some of my friends went to some of those just mega churches where it's just like giant screens and like you can go sit in a cafe and watch church, and it just like I don't know. I just like I was very jaded with the whole like idea of the money in church, and I felt like you know I'm sure that they donated and helped feed the homeless here and there, but it's just like you see the pastors with like the fancy cars and the giant houses, and like how
The
much
big
are they helping?
estates.
Yeah, yeah. How much are they really helping? Really? I mean, I'm sure like everybody out there is gonna have, or there's gonna be people out there that can argue there's organizations that do very good stuff, feed the hungry in Africa or something. But I would argue that a lot of those organizations have stipulations on whether or not you get the help from these organizations or not.
Yep. I know. As in every denominational church, so like Baptist, Southern Baptist, Lutheran, Methodist, Church of Christ, Church of God, any of those, it is a franchise system. They may not use the word franchise, but there is a hierarchy. It's a Ponzi scheme or a pyramid scheme, however, whatever you want to call it. But like every level of the church has to pay a certain percentage of all the money you donate to God, to the next higher up. And sometimes it's just one higher up, but sometimes there's districts, and then sometimes those districts they got to pay up to the regionals, and then there's a national, and then it just
And then
it's
there's the Pope.
right, right. It's like all these different guys started their own church because they didn't want to pay the Catholic Church anymore. And, enough time, as time went on throughout history, these eventually the Roman Church couldn't just keep killing everybody. So these guys finally did start their own churches. And then that's why you see so many non-denominational churches out here, guys. Non-denominational churches, they don't pay, 10 or 20% to a higher guy. They get to keep all that money. So, there's reasons why there's non-denominational churches. Um,
I
and
mean, yeah, the whole like non-denominational, and the crazy thing is if you look at it like the I mean Joel Osteen's, the Kenneth Copelands, like the Benny Hinn's, like there's like a set group of pastors out there that have just like really learned the whole like non-denominational, like hell, there was even like Scientology to an extent, like it was like you learn to like break off and create your own religion. These dudes are almost like cult leaders and idols, just like hiding behind the Bible.
oh man, there's so many. I didn't realize how many Christian cults there were. Like still today, like I just walk by people all the time. Like, oh yeah, I was part of a Christian cult, and I joke around and say, yeah, me too. And they're like, oh, which one? I'm like, well, I'm not gonna say because it was just the literal larger Christian cult in general. But
Yeah. Like no, I just like Christianity in general. I believed in it at one point.
Right, yeah. But there is still so many of these little cults. I mean, you can even go to like Chattanooga, and they got this restaurant there that like it's out on farm. Like the restaurant is like grown and then service to the restaurant and then cooked there, all by people who live in the church or on the church like estate. But it's like a church farm, and it's like a commune, and it's really interesting.
Which, I mean, there's a lot of like, I think, cool little like ideas behind that. I just think I mean, still, I mean, I don't know about that one. There's a lot of they would still be represented by like Church of Christ principles or whatever, but then there are some that are just like their own version of non-denominational.
Right, their own version.
Or
And
there was like, somebody else that like reads the Bible and claims to be like a reincarnation of Jesus or some sort of prophet born into like, sainthood. There's been several little factions of Christianity over time.
if you just look into history of how many people throughout history have thought and claimed and believed that they were Jesus, the second Jesus coming back. There's so many of them. It's crazy.
And to me, like
And these guys had big followings. Like there's a lot of Christians who thought these were the guys.
Joseph Smith.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, that's the whole crazy thing is like there's been so many times throughout history where somebody's claimed to just like be the access through heaven. And to me, it's always been either like a power and money play. Like church is such a big business and such a like it's easy to just like to claim that the 10% is money, like to the whole like tithing of Melchizedek and all that kind of stuff. There's argument that that is like a whole thing about like meditation, and you're supposed to like you know tithe 10% of yourself to like healing and meditation and non-action, and there's just like a different
Right, like
way of
what does
looking at.
God need money for, right?
Right. Like that's
Like,
the whole thing, and like in the search of God, you shouldn't need to be throwing money anywhere. Like money has nothing to do with like God.
no, it doesn't. And so it's almost like these churches are hedge funds or community centers for people to give their money to. Like one
Hedge funds.
it's
That's
a
a great way of looking at it, man.
yeah, because like, these big churches, or there's lots of big churches even around our place. There's mega churches. You give your money to these churches, and then you got a seat on a board, or you're part of the crew that gets to decide where this money goes. Well, where is it going to go? Well, we need to take a team here. We got to take a team there. We'd like a new community center so all of our friends we can have parties. And that way, and you get a tax write off too. And so then who gets the contract? Who gets to build the stuff for that church? Who gets to build that new church parking lot or community center?
Right.
It's one of those members of the church who's been happy to give 10% of his money to
Or
them.
when these mega churches throw these big fairs and invite businesses to come out, and it's like that. And part of that,
It's capitalism, baby.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
yeah, and that's the thing where
You
it's
scratch my back, I scratch
gonna,
yours.
yeah, exactly. And people are gonna say, well, that's just the community coming together, and it's just like, you're right. But it's very exclusive, and the thing is like it's almost predatory in a way that it's like you said, the pyramid schemes, these mega churches, like they're charging or like filtering money to the church through these other businesses with tax exemptions, tax write-offs, and like I mean, half these churches, like you said, have like giant boards where there's like it's not just the preacher that's getting rich. There's like
Right, yeah.
several people getting
It's no
rich
fun
off the
being rich
backs
by
of
yourself.
yeah off the backs of the crowd there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy, and you're right. Like it's just like there are several like right in our backyard. I mean, I bet you within like an hour drive of us, we could probably find 50 of them. Like,
Oh, yeah,
like,
definitely.
if you went
A
an
lot
hour
of
in
them.
any direction, you could.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, like there's a. That's just like a. I mean, there's these. It's just a new thing. They're popping up where like you can watch them from home on a website and pay to watch the church from.
Dude, we're so smart. Just think, if we wanted to sell Jesus, we could open up a Christian church, and if like we would make so much money because
Wow.
we know so much.
I mean, L. Ron Hubbard was the one to say, if you want to get rich, create a religion. I'm pretty sure, and I mean, he did. He created Scientology. At one point, he had like a Navy vessel like floating around out in the ocean. I mean,
Dude, I used to
You can
wonder.
get ridiculous amounts of money and power by just pretending to know where God is. And that's the thing like that I'm trying to like tell people is like, yes, I know God and I've had my own experiences, but like I think gatekeeping God is like one of the most horrible things that religion has done by trying to tell people that the only way to get to it is through them is should be that's like a natural crime to me. That's why I'm out here telling this over
Dude,
and over.
it's like Christians say, you should have no idols other than, God. But dude, Jesus is an idol. That's why the Jews don't believe in him. That's why the Muslims don't believe in him. They as God. It's because that's an idol. God is. You can't even really describe it. I mean, you can. You can describe God so many
You
ways.
can like that's why it's happened so many different ways.
Right, and and it's almost like you just feel bad for people who get trapped. Like I almost went my whole life. Just think if I would have never even studied other religions, and if I never would have really realized the one true God, of everything. If I just would have kept my eyes closed the whole time, that
Dude,
would have.
that's the craziest thing is like and I mean, okay, so I remember, going to church and having those moments where you're sitting there singing in the crowd and you do feel like you're lifted up and lighted up. And they're like the crazy thing is like they're selling you down this like watered down like evil version of God and the the one true God, the one true everything. Like that power is just like so much more and yet like we just like we hide it from people.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate to watch some just documentaries and study. Went and got a doctorate degree in comparative religion, so I studied lots of different religions. But then I joined the Masons and became a 32nd degree Mason. And then they just lined up some of the history from the Catholic Church, even before all the way from Zoroastrian and then Egyptianology and Catholicism to Christianity, and it's just like, oh wow, there's a lot of people in this world that do know the truth, and they see that it's just all been one rerun after one after the next, and
And
I
the business of church is what's destroyed that every time. Literally,
yeah.
all of these different religions have these like ancient mystery schools, and they're like the like underground sects of people who are trying to like show people what it is to know God, and then priests, high priests, in this hierarchy, the patriarchy, whatever you want to call it. We've had different names for it throughout history, but like different people have wanted to take over and be the like the gatekeeper of it and be the one that's like, oh well, the only way to get to God is through us, and so, and then I mean, it's always like a they control the resources, the power. People have to go to them. I mean, every revolution throughout the like Christian church from the Catholic Church has been to, like you said, break away from these franchise rules to stop having to pay for salvation, but really all it was they wanted to be the ones getting paid for salvation and it like that's the thing and until we break that cycle we're just like church is never not going to be a business and something like God should be free.
Yeah, find me a church that doesn't ask you to give them money.
That's the thing, like God should be free. God, I mean that I don't understand like God if you truly thought the power of God could save everyone and the power of God could create peace on earth, it should be free. Why are we charging everyone for it?
Right, it's like in that sense it's not God doing anything, it's humans doing everything, not God doing nothing. Just think for a second, just don't do nothing and see what God does for you, especially what you want to happen. you know.
Well, guys, I hope you had a good conversation with us today. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Peace out.
Yep, love you guys, take care. Let us know, have you had any bad stories about what you've seen your church do with money? We'd love to hear those. All right, see you.